somebody grab me some clippers. This fucking beard is weird. Diss tracks, these diss tracks, they've been around nearly as long as hip-hop has been around. No Vaseline, Compton, The Chin You, with Dre Day, Takeover, Ether, Hit 'Em Up, Who Shot Ya? Just a handful of many more examples of legendary diss tracks that have sent rumbles through the hip-hop community and forever changed the landscape of the rap game, potentially destroying whole rappers' careers, erasing any legacy. Or do they? Do diss tracks actually have that big of an impact? Has any rapper's career ever actually been destroyed strictly based off of a diss track? Today we're going to kind of go through this and discuss this idea of, are diss tracks really all they're hyped up to be? Or is this just another hip-hop myth? Can a rapper's career actually be destroyed in one track? Has there ever actually been a rapper that lost their career in one track? Or is this really just a big promotional tactic? Just another example of how all publicity is good publicity. Let's get into it. There is this aura around Eminem that he is an untouchable being. When stepping up to the mic with Eminem, you have to come with your best, or else he will destroy your entire career and credibility, and you will be left with nothing. But really, I can't think of a great example of a person that Eminem has actually destroyed their career. There's, for example, Nick Cannon or Ja Rule are a great example of people that, yes, seemingly don't have much of a career in hip-hop and rap nowadays. No one's really listening to either of their music, but is that because of Eminem? Maybe Eminem was a big contributing force for that being the case. But if you'd look, like, there was already a gigantic downward trend for both Ja Rule and Nick Cannon. And if anything, they got a little bit of a boost when interacting with Eminem, when coming after Eminem. So much so that Nick Cannon made like 4 separate diss tracks, and they're probably the biggest songs he's made in years. Or even better, take the Game for an example. Eminem didn't even have to respond to The Game, but he gained so much attention off of just calling out Eminem and making several different attacks at Eminem, eventually promoting a whole album just off the back of that there's an Eminem diss on it. Feels very deliberate, and it wasn't like The Game's career was in question. If anything, it damaged his credibility a little bit. And then, of course, the blatant one that everyone seems to go to when they say that Eminem is the untouchable god of diss tracks, of dissing rappers, is MGK. But to be honest, yes, there is the whole narrative that MGK ran away from hip-hop, went to go make punk music, and that is true. He stopped making hip-hop full on after an album. He released an album and then fully went to punk, and it would be unreasonable not to attribute some of that to his falling out with Eminem. But MGK is back to releasing hip-hop music now, and he's getting more streams than he ever has in his whole career. He is arguably at the peak of his whole career. There has not been a better time to be MGK. He's on every freaking podcast in the world promoting all of his stuff, had 2 tremendously successful punk albums, and then now is coming back to hip-hop. Just celebrated his 10-year anniversary of Hotel Diablo, and literally made like a song paying homage to his old style of hip-hop, let alone dropping all sorts of other more modern hip-hop tracks that are honestly quite good and stream very well. Rick Ross versus 50 Cent. There were a lot of things that 50 Cent exposed about Rick Ross. Him being a fed, taking his baby mama shopping, and allegedly hooking up with Rick Ross's baby mama. But Rick Ross has gone on to be even more successful than he was at that time. Now, 50 Cent versus Ja Rule might be the strongest example of somebody that truly destroyed a career, but really it was a massive contributing factor, because all of the issues with Murder Inc., as well as plenty of legal issues ending Ja Rule's career, it was really just a good timing thing. The fact that the 2 biggest musicians in the world, Eminem and 50 Cent, coming after Ja Rule and Murder Inc., undoubtedly played a gigantic hand in destroying his career. And Ja Rule might be the greatest example of somebody that could have gotten their career, for the most part, destroyed by diss tracks. And then let's talk about Jay-Z versus Nas, a great example of how both these people profited tremendously off of these diss tracks. I feel like this kind of speaks to the characters that are Jay-Z and Nas. They were both kind of mature businessmen at the time, and there's nothing that was really going to knock them off of their horses. It was more entertainment than anything else. You didn't really think anyone's career was at stake. Not really. Dr. Dre versus Ice Cube. But that right there could pretty easily be summed up by like No Vaseline was definitely the biggest diss of that beef. And if you look, Dr. Dre goes on to have like his biggest moment in his career after that. I think the best way you could track this, like possibly being the best response I could see for this would be like if they never have a hit or never have another peak in their career or even close to a peak in their career after they get dissed. If it's just a dwindling downward spiral, that could be the best argument against this idea that you can't kill a career with a rap diss. And I would be willing to hear that out. I know I didn't cover every rap beef in hip hop. I found this Reddit thread from 9 months ago from this guy that kind of perfectly reflects exactly what I'm saying here. Let me read it out to you to end this video. There's this myth of a career-ending diss track a rapper can unleash on his opponent, thereby ending his career. The truth, if you're a competent rapper who makes good music, people will always keep listening to you. Just like they kept listening to Jay-Z because he's Jay-Z, just like they kept listening to Rick Ross after 50 Cent dispute, just like they kept listening to Dre after No Vaseline, just like they kept listening to Drake after Pusha T. Oh my goodness, I didn't even bring up Pusha T. And I'm not even saying that Drake is on the same level as the others, because he isn't. But because he knows how to make music, people keep listening. Just like Biggie is and was still Biggie after Hit 'Em Up. Neither did 50 Cent and Eminem and Ja Rule. It's just that Ja Rule isn't that much of an interesting rapper as the ones that have been mentioned, also lacking appeal. The only one that can end someone's career is the rapper himself, meaning his own career by falling off artistically and as a rapper. I feel like that sums it up so perfectly. And yeah, I totally forgot to talk about Drake and Pusha T, or the Drake and Kendrick beef, you know, the biggest diss track in decades. This guy really called him Pusha D? That's insane to me. That must be a typo. I gotta assume that's a typo, but either way, this guy has amazing points. But yeah, there is the whole Drake and Pusha T thing where I would argue that was great for both of their careers. It was a little bit of a hit for Drake at first, but he just kept it pushing, no pun intended, and he still had one of his biggest peaks after that. The Kendrick and Drake thing, I sort of feel like hasn't really had enough time to live, hasn't really had enough time to breathe to really tell the long-term effects of what will happen to Drake's career. But if you watch reaction videos to a bunch of new Drake songs, there's plenty of people that are perfectly willing to just get over the beef and let Drake continue on as he was, maybe experiencing a bit of a commercial hit. For the longest time, Drake was dominating commercially, and now there is another rapper that is selling more than he is this year, at least, and we'll see how it goes for the next following years. But I do think that Drake is still going to sell a tremendous amount of copies next time he drops an album. That's just my prediction, and I think it's a pretty safe one at that. So I'm very interested to hear what y'all think about this down below. This sort of came to me when I was thinking of this whole like hip-hop myths video to make, and I thought this would be good on its own. Let me know if you'd like a kind of like hip-hop Mythbusters series kind of thing on my channel, because I think that could be fun. And there's a lot of blatant assumptions about hip-hop that aren't necessarily true all the time that I would love to talk about. So let me know if that sounds interesting down below, and I fucking love every single one of y'all. I'm gonna see y'all in the next video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more like this, and I fucking love you. Peace.
You know, Mort, I think you're beginning to grow.
Well, sir, I don't know how much value I have in this universe, but I do know that I made a few people happier than they would have been without me, and as long as I know that, I'm as rich as I ever need to be. So I'll catch you on the rebound, your magnitude. Until next week, Nanu, Nanu.